Coming up on this episode of Earth, we traveled to Indonesia to find out how palm oil is being produced sustainably to conserve water and protect the endangered rainforest. And we go to West Texas to see how toxic waste from oil drilling operations can be sequestered deep within the earth. In Vancouver, Canada, we discover the antimicrobial qualities of copper that is actually helping prevent the spread of disease. And in Portland, Oregon, we find out how vehicles and appliances are being recycled to produce new steel for infrastructure. Plus, in St. Louis, Missouri, some environmentally focused elementary students are competing to teach us about food package recycling. It's all coming up on Earth. Hi, I'm John Holden.
And I'm Andrea Ocampo.
Welcome to Earth. Hi, I'm John Holden. Welcome to Earth. We're starting off our show here in Indonesia, off the coast of Sumatra, the island of Belitung. You know, the Indonesian rainforest is one of the most biodiverse places on Earth and home to many endangered animals, many of which are constantly threatened by land conversion and deforestation. But one industry is trying to change all that, including one company here that is truly dedicated to sustainability. Let's take a look. Here in Indonesia, the rainforest is home to many endangered animals, such as the tarsier, a small and carnivorous primate with unusually large eyes. Animals like this are constantly threatened by the pace of deforestation due to human activities, and chief among those agricultural activities are palm oil plantations. This valuable crop, which can only grow in the tropics, is often linked to forest destruction, habitat loss, and soil degradation. But palm oil is also essential for global food security and economic development. Now, these are the trees from which palm oil is harvested, trees that can grow up to 45 feet tall. The taller they get, the harder it is to harvest. That's because the actual fruit of the tree is what makes palm oil, and it's from palm oil that some of the most valuable commodities we use every day comes from.
So palm oil is mainly used as edible oil, but it's used in cosmetics, detergent, shampoos, the works. It's also used as a biofuel. So you could imagine it touches everybody's lives across the globe.
In fact, about half of the world's people rely on palm oil as part of their diets. But the key is to preserve this critical oil's economic vitality while addressing biodiversity and climate change. Palm oil can be produced more sustainably by avoiding deforestation, creating more energy-efficient operations, and reducing production waste, while conserving the rainforest around it.
Sustainability is key because we are not talking about the prosperity of the company, but we also talking about our impact to the planet and people.
Environmental impact because of palm oil production is a serious concern to producers and also to consumers. But palm oil is a very efficient, versatile and economical and ubiquitous in our everyday lives. It's 4 times more productive than any other vegetable oil in the world. So I think cultivating any other vegetable oil will be more detrimental to the environment than palm oil. Sustainable palm oil production is the answer and the solution.
Gita Govindan is the Vice President Director of ANJ Group, a large Indonesian agribusiness company that has dedicated itself to managing the environmental impacts of palm oil production and keeping it sustainable.
We are not the largest, but we have strong ESG commitments with time-bound plans. And our ESG commitments go way long back, and we were very ambitious, especially in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and about our carbon footprint. We've incorporated all those attributes into our business, which actually commands a very high standard in terms of sustainability going forward.
ANJ has a vision to become the world-class agribusiness-based food company that elevates the livelihood of the people and nature.
Now, rather than deforestation, ANJ promotes the replanting of oil palms on non-forest areas. And it all starts right here in the middle of the plantation at the ANJ nursery.
What you're seeing actually is a two-stage nursery, oil palm nursery. And these are freshly transplanted in big poly bags. This will be here for about a period of 9 months, and then it will be transplanted in the field.
Here, high atop a hill overlooking the ANJ plantation, you can see endless oil palms as far as the eye can see in virtually every direction. Now, you can't say that ANJ is the largest producer of palm oil, but you can say it's one of the most sustainable producers of palm oil in the world.
There's a constant increasing demand for edible oils and fat as the population of the globe grows. And for a hungry planet, it's important to have an efficient crop.
ANJ even serves as an independent power producer for the Indonesian island, with one of its projects producing renewable energy from palm oil waste.
So this is a methane capture plant. It converts methane to electrical energy. We supply roughly 1.8 megawatts to the state electrical company. That's approximately 9.9 million kilowatt hours. So part of the island's electricity comes from this plant. And this is generated from palm oil waste. This is not normal, this is not traditional you'd see in a plantation group. We embarked on this to reduce our carbon footprint.
Everyone at ANJ shares the deep sense that conservation is the soul of this company, with its vision of elevating the lives of people, while at the same time protecting the rainforest around it and its amazing inhabitants. Our next story takes us here to the wide open range of West Texas, known for cattle ranches, agriculture, sagebrush, and lots of oil wells. You know, a ton of money has been made in the oil industry since oil was discovered in this area back in the 1950s, and a ton of oil waste as well. But today, oil waste is being sequestered deep underground in ways that you can hardly imagine, as you're about to see. Many oil and gas companies have committed to long-term net zero greenhouse gas emission targets, but the common practice of on-site waste disposal releases large amounts of carbon and volatile organic compounds, creating air, land, and groundwater pollution. Today, it's estimated that up to 90% of Texas drilling operations still use reserve pits on the drilling location. Now, regulations exist in some parts of the country that allow companies to dispose of energy waste by burying it in the ground near where it's generated. But what's in this waste? Hydrocarbons, heavy metals, and contaminants like benzene, arsenic, and lead, which are natural to our planet but are in higher concentrations in the energy waste. It's not something any landowner wants on their land, including landowners like Carlos Dusek.
When I came out here, some of the wells that were drilled in the early part of the 70s, covered up, the drill pit was there right beside it. It took 40 to 45 years for that land to become productive again. It took that long to leach the ground out where it would grow anything. We've got to continue with producing energy, but we've got to continue to find methods of keeping this land safe, keeping it unpolluted for the next generation, and wildlife and everything else that depends on this land.
Fortunately, a viable solution already exists, pioneered by a company called Milestone Environmental Services. Milestone's proprietary slurry injection process permanently sequesters oil and gas waste deep underground, eliminating the risk of groundwater contamination while safely reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Soil contamination and groundwater contamination really affect the people that live in this immediate area. And so we help avoid soil and groundwater contamination by managing the waste in the right way. We now have a total of 8 facilities in the Permian. More than 90% of the waste we take ultimately ends up going into our injection wells. We've got more facilities than anybody else. We've got the highest market share in this basin, and we're continuing to build.
10 years ago, there were very few off-site disposal facilities in the Texas Permian Basin. Today, there are so many that almost every drilling rig in the region is less than a 30-minute drive to an off-site disposal facility. This facility, located near the tiny town of Midkiff, Texas, south of Midland, is helping oil producers reach their carbon emission reduction goals.
The facility itself occupies less than 5 acres of land. But we're able to process enough material here so that we can help our customers avoid spreading waste over thousands and thousands of acres of Permian Basin property. We're able to take at this facility anywhere up to 20,000 barrels a day of contaminated fluid that comes from the oil and gas industry, and we're able to do it in a very small footprint. And that's part of the benefit that we provide. We've really built the infrastructure throughout the Permian Basin with this facilities and 7 others just like it across the basin to be able to manage this waste and be able to consolidate it all, treat it, and safely sequester it 7,000 feet below our feet.
In 2022 alone, Milestone sequestered CO2 equal to the carbon emitted by nearly 90,000 vehicles, driving over 1 billion miles. From an environmental standpoint, that's a significant alternative to reserve pits.
If we want to continue to have oil and gas in this industry around by 2030, 2050, we need to do it in an environmentally responsible way. And oil and gas companies are receiving a lot of pressure to be as responsible as they possibly can. When they partner with Milestone and they bring us their waste, and we dispose of it responsibly by injecting it 7,000 feet below us, there's no better way to dispose of your waste.
And it's great that Milestone has come up with a method of injecting this slurry below ground. It'll just quit all this pollution that's scattered around at every drill site, and there are thousands of drill sites in the area.
One of the important things about what we do is we're taking a lot of hydrocarbons out of this waste stream and actually putting them back in the ground. So in some ways, we're an oil and gas company in reverse. We're sequestering carbon to the tune of about 40 to 50,000 tons a month and that we're keeping out of the environment.
We now know that, at least for the near future, producing oil and gas is really essential to our modern society. But it's good to know there's now proven cost-effective ways to, well, dealing with environmental issues for this massive industry of oil and gas. Next up, Andrea Ocampo is in Vancouver, Canada.
As the world emerges from a global pandemic, it's important now more than ever to acknowledge the busiest places need the cleanest surfaces. That's because every single day, high-touch surfaces have the potential to collect germs that can make us sick. Your first thought may be wipes, sprays, or even hand sanitizer as a key to killing germs. But there's a super fighting element that continuously does a job as part of its natural composition. Let's take a closer look. Let's face it, no one likes to get sick. Whether you're busy treating patients in a hospital, running your own business, or a stay-at-home parent coordinating the morning school carpool, when you're under the weather, it puts a halt to, well, everything. Germs are everywhere, and everything we touch potentially has illness-causing bacteria. Copper, typically used for powering our modern world, from hybrid vehicles to computers and smartphones, is proving to be extremely effective in helping prevent the spread of bacteria.
When bacteria comes in contact with a copper surface, copper releases electrically charged particles called ions. These ions go into the cell and they interrupt the bacteria's ability to breathe and to digest, and it damages their genetic material. All of this together kills the bacteria.
As one of North America's major copper producers, Teck is committed to raising awareness and advocating for the use of copper as an innovative solution to healthcare-acquired infections, as well as infections resulting from bacteria spread in busy public spaces.
Teck is Canada's largest diversified mining company, and one of the products that we mine is copper, and we operate in a number of communities internationally. And so it's extremely important for us to be thinking about the health and safety of those communities as well as communities just around the world. And so we found this opportunity with the Copper and Health program to bring together those two ideas. Copper is a very sustainable metal. It's mined in North America, it's sustainably developed, it's infinitely recyclable in that it's effective no matter how many times you use it, and it's safe to use. And most importantly, it works.
Think about it. If your hand is contaminated with harmful bacteria, you can potentially transfer that bacteria to clean surfaces. And when someone else comes along and touches those surfaces and then unknowingly touches their face, the bacteria can enter their body and then make them sick. That's why copper is quickly becoming the new gold standard in patient safety.
So key to making this program work has been partnerships, partnering with major institutions and organizations to help spread the word about how copper can be used. So we've used it in healthcare, but also in a lot of other diverse settings, such as universities, public transportation, airports, and even in education and daycares. And so our real intention with this is to show the diversity of uses and show how easy it is. But it's also about creating innovation.
Installing copper in these high-traffic, high-touch locations can have a significant impact on reducing illness. This isn't just about safer places. It can improve productivity and increase confidence as people carry out their daily lives.
BCIT is really a city within city. We have close to 50 to 60,000 people that show up at BCIT annually, and health and safety is a critical part of their well-being for the academic program and also for working at BCIT. Adding the copper patches to the door handle, it's a new science. It's proven to be very good for BCIT. Soon after we did the, attached it to the door handles on about 7 buildings, we did an analysis and the results were stunning. It reduced any of the transmissible spots by about 99%, even higher. In fact, some of the analyses were non-existent.
If the pandemic taught us one thing, it's that we cannot be complacent when it comes to protecting public health and the spread of bacteria. If we want to protect our safety, our economy, and our way of life, then we need to take action to prevent this type of spread. Copper is an innovative solution that works around the clock to keep us safe, and we should do everything we can to see it deployed across all high-traffic public spaces before we have another crisis.
This is completely about keeping communities safe, and it's a great way to raise awareness about mining and metals. Metals have an important role in society, and it's often in our everyday lives, and we don't realize the value it can bring. And I think the idea of public health and of it bringing safety to our homes and to our public spaces is a really innovative use of metals, and we hope people learn about that and grow to understand more about how these things come to be.
Individuals should continue to follow public health guidelines, including precautions like mask wearing and social distancing when needed. Teck Resources continues to provide solutions like the antimicrobial copper surfaces in healthcare and beyond, with the common goal to make our community safer.
Our next story takes us here to Portland, Oregon, home of scenic beauty like the landmark Cathedral Park here in Portland and nonstop traffic from across the nation. But cars are also very important to building our nation's bridges and infrastructure. Bridges like the landmark St. John's Bridge that you see behind me, thanks to the sustainability efforts that are underway here. Let's take a look. Worldwide, roughly 90 million vehicles are produced each year, with nearly 2,000 pounds of steel and other valuable metals required to make each one. So where do all of these cars go at their end of life? Today, the majority of them can find a new life as part of our nation's essential infrastructure, thanks to recycling.
Recycling is part of our core values in these states. Certainly metal recycling is important because it has a lower environmental impact. I think it uses 75% less energy to recycle steel rather than pulling it out of the ground. I think 60% of the metal that we use in this country is recycled, and that's been the case for about 50 years. So it's important to our way of life and to our long-term future.
This is possible thanks to recycling companies like Schnitzer Steel that close the loop on the metals used to make the cars, trucks, and buses we use every day.
We're one of the largest metal recyclers in North America. We were founded in 1906. so we're 116 years old. And what most people don't understand is number one, the importance of steel to everything that we do, to the houses we live in, the bridges we walk on, the cars we drive in, the computers we work on. They don't understand that steel and metal, generally, that metals are an important component of all of those things. So we see value where other people see waste. And the only way that you are able to make that transformation is by being innovative.
To understand how Schnitzer achieved its position, I decided to follow their recycling process of an everyday passenger vehicle, starting from the time it's dropped off at one of Schnitzer's 50 pick-and-pull auto parts recovery stores. This one is located along the Willamette River in northwest Portland.
The customer might have a car that's worn out, worn down. They're looking to get rid of that thing and they want a sustainable solution for that vehicle. It might have some useful life left in the parts. So at Pick and Pull, we'll purchase that vehicle from the customer. We'll follow a strict set of guidelines and depollution processes, ultimately allowing customers to pull parts off. That's kind of where the term pick and pull comes from, right? They're going to pick the car they want and pull the parts they need.
And once a car is totally picked clean of all parts that a customer wants, the next step is it's ready to be filleted like a fish so it can be crushed like a pancake. The crushed vehicles are then loaded and transported to a metal recycling facility for processing. Next stop, the shredder. Here the crushed vehicle bodies are fed into a powerful metal shredder, which breaks a car down into baseball-sized pieces in roughly 30 seconds. The facility then uses advanced technologies to separate and process the metal pieces into mountains of ferrous metals like steel and non-ferrous metals like aluminum and copper. What's the environmental beauty of this?
Well, it's our treasure. It may be other people's junk, but there's cars, hot water heaters, refrigerators that have been drained properly in this pile, and there's 1,000 tons here. It'll go through the shredder, it'll turn into new steel, and we're keeping it out of a landfill, and we do that every day.
That end-of-life journey continues for the ferrous metals at Schnitzer's Cascade Steel Rolling Mill in McMinnville, Oregon, about an hour south of Portland, where recycled metal is turned back into sustainable steel.
In our mill, our operations run at a high of 2,800 Fahrenheit, and so it's a very hot process. You're melting molten metals, and our finished product is roughly about 500,000 tons of metals, finished products per year, which is wire, rebar, and merchant rods, which is utilized in essential infrastructures such as highways and bridges.
Just like Oregon's Newburgh-Dundee bypass bridge that you see above me. It's one example of Schnitzer's recycled rebar in action. And when you consider the massive infrastructure going on in our country right now, with over 600,000 bridges in the USA alone, there's a lot to do.
We introduced a new product called Green Steel, GRN Steel, which is our first net zero carbon emission steel product that we're very excited about. So what I want people to understand is the critical nature of metals to a low carbon future. I want people to understand that recycling metal is very important to a sustainable future, and that what we do, I often say that Schnitzer has been about sustainability before sustainability was a word.
Whether it's in the shape of a cathedral like St. John's Bridge or something else, metal is a finite resource. Luckily, the metal we find in cars, vans, and even electric vehicles can be used again and again to make the bridges and infrastructure that we use every day. I'm sure you all recognize this famous landmark in St. Louis, Missouri. We're standing in front of the Arch, 630 feet tall, known as the Gateway to the West. But we're here for a much more environmental reason, to find out how St. Louis is also becoming known as the gateway to better recycling. Let's find out how. These days, you're never too young to learn about the importance of recycling, especially here in St. Louis. You know, one of the first things we learn in school is numbers. And kids here at Rogers Elementary School are using math for a simple and intriguing process to learn which kind of plastic is recyclable.
So we're collecting number 5 plastic because it is...
At Rogers Elementary, high school students lead a program called Drive for 5 to inspire local elementary students to find and collect reusable plastic treasure and send it to the local recycling center.
So what we have them look for is, I tell them every time there's a triangle with a number in it. And what we want is a triangle with a number 5 in it, and that's just what they search for when they're at the table. Start looking, see if you can find 5. A lot of number 5 plastic is in all of their homes. It's in stuff they use pretty much every day, so they have pretty good access to it if they just clean it, have it be dry, and they'll put it in their bins, and it's counted towards their grade.
Obviously, it's all about recycling, specifically number 5 plastic, which is very recyclable. However, is not a plastic that is high levels of recycling in the community. So this presents an opportunity for us to focus on number 5 with a drive for 5 with recycling.
And these elementary students take what they learn home, in turn helping their families learn how to recycle number 5 and significantly increase the program's impact. Today, more than 90% of the plastic at many restaurants is PP, or number 5 plastic. Improving collection and recycling can lead to packaging circularity, a major commitment of Anchor Packaging, one of North America's largest PP producers and the sponsor of Drive for 5.
So we feel protecting food serves 2 purposes. One, it puts more food in people's bellies and less in landfills, and at the same time minimizes the impact on the environment.
Did you know that 20% of your daily carbon footprint comes from the food you eat? And almost half of our food is wasted, filling up landfills and creating methane gas as it decomposes. Today, over 53% of food is eaten away from home. This makes it more important than ever to improve the collection and recycling of number 5 food containers.
To be truly sustainable, food packaging has to do 2 things. First, it has to prevent food waste by protecting and preserving the food. And secondly, it's got to offer a viable alternative after use. Polypropylene is a great solution in that regard because it's reusable and recyclable after many uses.
One company committed to using sustainable packaging products is a familiar one, KFC. They're a big supporter of Anchor's Drive for 5 initiative. You know, the carbon footprint of food is usually much higher than its packaging, sometimes hundreds of times higher. That's why it's very important to preserve the quality and freshness of food from farm to table, with quality, sustainable containers like this one.
Well, number 5 has been an evolution for us as a brand. Different plastics have different properties. So number 5, which is polypropylene, it has a temperature profile that allows us to do hot and cold foods. So if you've got a food coming out at 180 or 160 degrees, whatever the food temperature set point is, you need something that can hold up. And polypropylene can do both.
Another important factor in improving packaging sustainability is using more recycled content to produce it. Anchor Packaging partners with the company INEOS to make that happen.
We've provided Anchor with polypropylene for almost 20 years now. And then where we're trying to make it even more sustainable is work on making the resin itself recyclable. That's the nice thing from the perspective of INEOS, is that the same basic chemistry can make an enormously wide array of different products.
For the winning Drive for 5 team, collecting the most PP plastic means a cleaner environment, as well as a more personal prize to achieve in school.
The goal, what they're after more kind of tangibly, is they're competing against every grade level. First grade against second, against third, all the way through 5th grade to bring in number 5 plastic from home.
And while these kids enjoy competing, they're also bringing what they learn home, teaching their families and friends and improving PP recycling across their community. As this program continues to spread to more schools, this positive impact only grows.
Why are we all here?
Drive for 5!